What up, YouTube? Welcome back. So in this video, I want to talk about KeKe Palmer and the video that she posted and the reaction that that video garnered, particularly from Black social media. So you may or may not know, but KeKe Palmer recently posted a video of her kissing a mystery white man. We don't know this guy's relation to KeKe Palmer. People are assuming that this is KeKe Palmer's boyfriend, but she hasn't confirmed or denied or defined their relationship. But nevertheless, people are speculating and posting their thoughts and opinions about this on social media. And a lot of people, particularly Black people, especially Black men, are taking some issues with this. They're not really feeling this, they're not really liking this. They're, saying that, what about Black love? Because Black love is so important to Black men. Definitely, Black men champion Black love all the time, all day long. I don't think there's ever been a point in history where Black men have not championed for Black love. All right. So the Black men, they want to see KeKe Palmer with a Black man, right? Which is understandable, There's nothing inherently wrong with that. Although I think when, Black women express similar sentiments when it comes to Black men swirling, then it seems to be brushed off. Like, oh, it doesn't really matter. Oh, you shouldn't really care about that. Oh, it's not your business. Oh, don't be so jealous. Folks have a right to love and be with who they want to be with. And, all those things are nice and well and dandy, And I do agree at the end of the day, we all have a right to be with who we want to be with. We all have a right to our preferences and our deal breakers as well. We do. All right. But I do see Black men kind of coming through and being a bit like, oh, Black women want to defend this. And I don't think people, particularly Black men, are really putting it into context. Because, yeah, there are some Black women who would defend it, either or, no matter what. But then there's some Black women who think, well, since Black men, are swirling until they're hurling without a care in the world, and it's like, well, should we really go after KeKe Palmer like that? Then it's like, the saying, right? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So it kind of comes at it. I think some Black women are approaching it like that, right? Whereas like, oh, well, they kind of thought that swirling was cool. Because, you do see like swirling being celebrated when it comes to Black men getting with like the Kardashians or the Jenners, most recently Jeannie Mai, right? You do see it being celebrated. So if you're a Black woman, you're thinking, well, I guess, okay, when in Rome, right? Swirl it up, I guess. So I think the Black women some are approaching it from that angle, and, to the Black men who want to bring that up, well, it's like, okay, you're bringing it up and saying that Black women are low-key being hypocritical, but you are only speaking out about swirling when it's a Black woman, because that's probably what triggers you. When it's a Black man, it's just, it doesn't really faze you, which is fine, but I think it's just good to admit that, like, hey, it doesn't really bother me to see, Black men swirling. Black love isn't really a big deal, when it's Black men swirling, when it's Black men interracially dating. It's not really a big deal, right? Which, is people's right to have, what's a big deal to them and what's not a big deal to them. And that's true. But I think it's just good to be honest about that and not portray it like, oh, Black women are being hypocritical. It's like you have to put it all the way into context, right? And as well, you have to be real about, how you feel. Like, I don't think you are 100% across the board, no swirl. And it's like, even if they do kind of have an issue with black men swirling, they're more likely to just keep it to themselves. They may not agree with it. They may think it's some coonery, buffoonery. You know, they may not think it's conducive to black love, etc. But you don't really see the reaction as much, right? It just tends to be people minding their own business at that point, right? And just staying out of it. But when it comes to black women and who black women are with, so many people want to regulate, you know, what black women do, how they wear their hair, the makeup that they wear, the people that they pursue, or the people that they, get into relationships with, rather, swirl or not to swirl. Black women, the most regulated and while being the most subjugated, right? And, people may view it as coming off as like, oh, well, people are concerned about black women's well-being. And honestly, I don't think that's where it's coming from, because anytime black women really have complaints about anything, whether it's, complaints about, black men not doing what they feel that black men should be doing, complaints about colorism, what have you. Those complaints are often dismissed. They're not really taken seriously. Whether the black woman is a black man only black woman or a swirler, those complaints are hardly ever taken seriously. So it's like, really, if you want to be real about it, the swirlers and the black men only women aren't too far apart from each other. As quiet as kept as far as the treatment that they receive and how they're treated in the community, I think that the black men only black women, black women who date black men only, they may be put ahead slightly, but not by much. Put ahead slightly in front of swirling black women, but not by much, though, right? Because when it comes to advocacy, if she's a swirler, then it's like, no, we're not advocating for her. Like, if Breonna Taylor was a swirler, folks would not be advocating for her. And honestly, Breonna Taylor she received advocacy. I will admit that. And she's probably received the most advocacy that any black woman has received as a victim of police brutality, at least recently, right? But as quiet as it's kept, Breonna Taylor, her situation came in at the right time. Because if it didn't come in at the right time, it would have been ignored. Because it was ignored, it was ignored up until perhaps the George Floyd situation happened. Because first it was like more so about Ahmaud, Arbery, and then George Floyd popped off. But I think Breonna Taylor happened before both of those cases happened. I may be wrong about that, but I think so. But, there were people trying to get justice for her back then before the case really popped off in the media like that. So I say all of that to say that, whether you're a swirler as a black woman or not a swirler as a black woman, it doesn't really matter. And not as much as you think it does. Particularly when it comes to how black men are going to be treating you. Right? But let me get back to KeKe Palmer right quick. So, yeah, KeKe Palmer, thankfully, KeKe Palmer doesn't seem like she's really letting this affect her. It's not really a big deal for her. She's like, whatever. She didn't really, taking it to heart or anything. Probably because she knows how people are. So, she ain't really just going go crazy over this. But, I have noticed when black women do come out as swirlers who are in the media, it does seem to be a bit of a backlash, though. Like say Eve, she's experienced a lot of backlash. Serena Williams, she's experienced some backlash. Um, who else? Tika Sumpter has experienced some backlash as well. You know, Michelle Williams from Destiny's Child, she's experienced some backlash too. You know, and I feel like a lot of times black people, especially black men, I don't know if they're really checking for these women like that. Not to say that these women aren't attractive, and these women aren't of value or anything like that. But sometimes I feel like, you know, these women get ignored to an extent. A Jodie Turner Smith is also one of them too, you know. But yeah, these women kind of get ignored until they're seen with someone who's non-black, especially if he's white, and then it's an issue now. But before, there was just being ignored, and seemingly was, there, you know, you know. And I know some people will come through and be like, well, black men get, attacked for being in interracial relationships too. And the thing is with that, I'm not saying that that's not true and there's no truth in that, but when it's a black man, seemingly the criticism is coming more so from black women. While when it's a black woman, criticism is coming from black men and a good segment of black women. For some reason, black women like to jump in and go after other black women who swirl, which I think is a bit odd just because I'm like, well, you guys seemingly are interested in two different groups of men. So I don't really see what the issue would be. You guys aren't going for the same dudes, so what's the problem? Especially if you are a black woman who's a black man only, that would actually be in your favor. Like, yeah, go ahead, go over there. And, you just take up all the black hangs for yourself. But, I think sometimes those women are doing it on behalf of being pro-black, which wouldn't be a bad thing if it was more so reciprocated, though. That's the thing. I don't really see reciprocation happening when it comes to that, And as well, like, it seemingly seems like black women's pro-blackness, quote unquote, is linked to black men. Whereas, like, oh, you can't claim to be pro-black and not advocate for black men and not be with a black man. While black men's pro-blackness, quote unquote, is not linked to black women or advocacy for black women. That's not really a criteria. Notice that. Because the black men can be claiming pro-blackness and not even be with a black woman at all. And still, it's like, well, we can at least debate it. It's debatable. But when it's a black woman, it's like, it's no debate about that. No one's really debating about that. And I think the thing is that comes from, I think we see black men as black people while we see black women as just black women. And that's why when issues affect black men, they're seen as community issues, black community issues, while when they're issues that primarily affect black women, they're seen as just more so black women's issues, And even black women themselves seem to be less interested in black women's issues than, black community issues, right? Quote unquote, right? And I guess one more thing I want to mention before I go. It's like, KeKe Palmer does have a history of dating primarily black men, And I notice when things like this come up, it don't really, like, make a difference. It don't really make a difference at that point, Because if KeKe Palmer was a black man and this happened, folks would be bringing up, well, um, he's dated plenty of black women before this. You need to, not be so hard on him, basically, right? You know, but I don't really see that argument being thrown out there for KeKe Palmer. And as well, KeKe Palmer does have, you know, a history of advocacy for black men and, against police brutality as well, but that's not being taken into consideration as well. Folks are just like, nah, you know, you need to be with a black man, KeKe. That's it. Period. End of story. Right? You know. Another thing, remember when Megan Thee Stallion had, these promo pictures with G-Eazy, and it came out during Black History Month too, and folks, black folks were tripping about that. Remember? And those are just some promo pictures, right? Folks were seemingly so concerned about who Megan Thee Stallion was with. But when Megan Thee Stallion ended up in the situation that she's in now, where are these same people advocating for her? Where's that concern now? Think about it. Like I said, folks ain't really concerned about black women like that. Yeah, they want to regulate black women, you know, but it doesn't come from a place of concern. So don't get it twisted. That's all I want to say. Thanks for watching, you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Until the next video, adios and goodbye for now.